Where does Peyton Thorne rank among all these SEC quarterbacks?
There goes Davis. Oh my God! Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game.
Hello and welcome to this episode of War Eagle Weekly. How we doing, Josh?
Doing good, man. I'm looking forward to this episode.
I am as well. We got one heck of a episode for everybody. We're going to be ranking all 16 starting or projected starting quarterbacks for the 2024 season. And I think we're going to have some that are ranked the same. I think we're going to have some that are ranked differently. And I think we might have some nice, fun discussions about this and some disagreements about these players, if you will, Josh. Let's go ahead and dive right into this list, Josh. Let's talk about who the best SEC quarterback is. And starting us off at number 16, Josh, go ahead and give us your list.
I got Taylor Green as a number 16 quarterback in the SEC. He comes from Boise State. It's his first year in the SEC at Arkansas. I mean, he had okay numbers at Boise State. He had Peyton Thorne-esque 2023 numbers his entire career at Boise State. He only started 2 seasons. His best season was 1,900 passing yards with 13 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. That was 2 years ago. Last year, he had 11 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. And I can only imagine he had better talent at Boise State than he will at Arkansas. So, I mean, I do not expect Taylor Green to do too much at Arkansas in 2024.
Okay. All right. Well, moving right along, number 15, Josh.
Got Lenoris Sellers. He had 4 completions out of 4 attempts last year, but he did have 2 touchdowns in those 4 completions. I do think he can be pretty good, but seeing this is his, very first year at the helm of a SEC team, I have him ranked pretty low, but I can see him making some noise in the SEC this year.
And you got to feel like there's going to be a trend for us, at least. I think about experience within the SEC kind of controlling this, and especially first-year starters might have a little bit of a problem. But let's go ahead and dive in. Your number 14 quarterback for the year, Josh.
It's going to be true sophomore Oklahoma quarterback Jackson Arnold.
Whoa, Oklahoma fans, settle down. Let's not get too rowdy here. Let's not go out there and circle the wagons. It's okay. He's a sophomore, guys. Stop building him up as if he's the next greatest quarterback. Holy!
I mean, you lose Dylan Gabriel. You got to throw Jackson Arnold into the fire. First year in the SEC. I do not see too many good things coming from Jackson Arnold. I could even see Lenoris Sellers jumping him on this list as the season progresses. I don't think Jackson Arnold's going to be terrible. I just do not think he is an SEC caliber quarterback.
I can't wait to share my opinions on Jackson Arnold once I get to my list. Let's go ahead. Number 13, Josh.
This one hurts me. I wish I could put him at number 17, but I can't. Got Diego Pavia, transfer from New Mexico State.
Every Auburn fan here knows exactly who this guy is, Josh.
I think 13 is right around where I feel comfortable putting him there, and I feel comfortable saying he's going to stay around that area as the season progresses. He does come from New Mexico State, a team that liked to control the clock more than they did put points on the board, even though they smoked Auburn in Jordan Hare. And that's Jordan Hare, not Jordan Hare, talking to Oklahoma's locked on podcaster. But I mean, it's Vanderbilt. You can't really expect too much out of their quarterbacks.
That's fair enough. Number 12, Josh.
Garrett Nussmeier. He's been in the SEC for this will be his 4th year in the SEC. He's never had more than 627 passing yards, and he's never had more than 3 passing touchdowns. He did have to play behind Jaden Daniels for the last 2 years at LSU, or is it, no, yeah, 2 years. So I mean, I think Garrett Nussmeier could definitely move into probably the top 10, top 7 quarterbacks in the SEC this year. But there's some pretty decent quarterbacks in the SEC this year, so I think it's going to be a little hard for him to move too far up the list. But I don't think he's that bad of a quarterback. He just hasn't. You got such a small sample size from him in the 3 years he's been at LSU. So I think this year he could actually make a name for himself.
And let's be honest, so far up to this point, this is a lot of quarterbacks that are like, they could very well be by the end of the season a lot better than this positioning here. But you and I both are strong believers in, you got to prove it to me. You haven't really done nothing in the SEC. So let's see you prove it. So I think that's fair. Number 11, speaking of prove it.
Yep. I mean, this is a guy I would actually like to see higher on the list. He was a highly touted 5-star quarterback coming out of high school. He originally committed to Georgia, never, ever got the time of day at Georgia. He had 18 attempts last year. But I mean, I think he could definitely make some noise at Kentucky this year. I don't think Kentucky's a bad team whatsoever. I actually think that Auburn's trip to Kentucky this year is going to be a difficult game for the most part for Auburn. They very well could go into Kentucky and lose that game, and I think Brock Vandegrift would have a huge part to play in an Auburn loss if that happens. I would like to see him move up pretty heavily on this list as the season progresses, but as it stands right now, because you have such a small sample size, I'm going to put him at 11, but because he was a highly touted 5-star guy, that's why I have him higher on the list than, the other 5 players before him.
Well, I mean, Jackson Arnold was a 5-star quarterback as well. So, but I think in his situation, we'll talk about it when we get to my list. Well, I want to save something here. So I think that's fair. All right. Number 16. Again, ours is going to be pretty close here in this 16 through 11. Lenore Setters. Again, like you were saying, it's just like proving he had 4 completions. Robbie Ashford, who we are well aware of, is going to be having some packages there. They've already pretty much come out and say it. So he's not going to have these crazy numbers. So that's why I got him at number 16. Number 15, I actually have Brock Vandegrift because it just reminds me of another Georgia quarterback who got upended by a younger guy in Stetson Bennett, and the quarterback that ended up transferring out. I can't remember his name. What was his Daniels?
JT Daniels.
JT Daniels. He ended up at like 5 different schools, played for 7 years, never really did anything. And so Vandegrift, I think, is going to have a little bit of the same issue here. Number 14. This is where we have a big difference in ours. I believe here. You are high.
I'm not high on him, but I think the potential for him is higher. Yeah.
Higher. And I think there's a lot of talent there at Tennessee. But I have Nico Lamalalova.
Iyamalaeva.
Okay. Yeah, that right there. If he's out there playing in his pajama pants, maybe he's higher on this list. But as of right now, I need to see it, son. I need to see it.
You're referring to the video of him before he was actually a college player?
Yes, that is exactly what I am doing. Number 13, I have Taylor Green. Wow. I feel like Bobby Petrino is the reason why he is as high as I have him here. I feel like if Bobby Petrino pegs you as his starting quarterback, you're going to be able to put up some numbers, and he's going to make some noise a couple times this year, but he's got to prove it to me. Coming from Boise State, the last person that came from Boise State into the SEC fell flat on their face and created a famine. So let's see what happens here with their quarterback.
Man, number 12. Bring him up.
Yeah. Number 12, Garrett Nussmeier. Really everything that you pointed out. I mean, this guy has all the tools, has talent around him at LSU. The defense should be better, so it puts him in better positions than JT Daniels had last year. But again, I just got to see it. And number 11, I have Jackson Arnold. Now, here's the thing. This is what I wanted to say and what I want to talk about. This dude is a 5-star quarterback. He was a 5-star quarterback coming out of high school. And so everything you said for Vandergriff, it applies to him as well. And he looked good in the moments that he played last year. But his offensive line is completely new. And yes, this is a ranking of the SEC quarterbacks, but you got to have a stable foundation to be able to throw the ball. Because if you're not, and you're not Patrick Mahomes, you're going to be in trouble. So that's my thinking on him. I think I have him hired for that reason because he is a 5-star, and it's kind of funny. We kind of swapped places with Vandergriff and Arnold. You and I, pretty close at least.
Yeah.
Moving right along, Josh, your number 10 through 6. Who is your number 10 player?
My 10th player, he would be higher if he could stay friggin' healthy. It's Texas A&M quarterback Connor Wegman. I mean, He is easily their best option at quarterback. He looked good until he came to Auburn and got hurt and then missed the rest of the season. Or not really came to Auburn because we played at Texas A&M last year. But when he played Auburn, he got hurt, and he's been hurt every year he's been at Texas A&M. Hasn't been able to play a full season. If he can do that, he'd easily be a top 5 quarterback in the SEC.
Okay, that's fair. Number 9 on the list, Josh.
I actually have Tennessee quarterback Nico Yamaleva. I'm not high on this guy whatsoever. I think he is severely
a top 10
overhyped.
Quarterback in the league. That's pretty high in my book.
Well, I would say the top 10 ranking is because of the potential. His ceiling is a lot higher than anyone else I have on the list as of right now. For the exact reasons I stated about Connor Wegman. If Connor Wegman was healthy, he'd probably switch spots with Nico. But right now, I have Nico so high because he has a lot of talent around him. He's got Squirrel White he can throw to, and that's going to be his safety valve this year. Everyone knows it. Squirrel White is a baller, and he's going to play a big part in getting Nico, accustomed to the SEC. Last year, I mean, Nico had 26 attempts, only 1 touchdown, and only 163 yards. But I do see him making some noise this year and actually probably selling me on him a little bit more than I am right now. I feel like he's just severely overrated as of right now.
Yeah, I think he's severely overrated personally. Number 8, Josh.
I have Auburn quarterback Peyton Thorne. I didn't want to put him too high. I don't think he deserved to be any lower than number 8. I do think he is a top 10 quarterback in the SEC. Last year was a little underwhelming. He didn't even throw for 1,700 yards last year and only had 15 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. So, I mean, he's got a lot more talent around him this year. We've been talking about it all season long. Everything we've heard and seen out of camp has solidified those talking points that the talent is a lot better around him. So I expect a lot more out of Peyton Thorne this year, and I think a lot of Auburn fans are expecting a lot more out of him this year as well.
Okay, all right. Number 7.
This guy, we were talking about this before we started the episode in our little pre-show conference. Blake Shapen, the dude absolutely balled out at Baylor. I mean, he never threw for less than 2,000 yards when he was a full-time starter. And you put him at Mississippi State. I think he's going to be Mississippi State's shining star this season. He's going to win Mississippi State some games they probably have no business winning this year. I'm really high on Blake Shapen this year for sure.
Yeah, dude, we talked about it. How is nobody talking about this guy? I told you I did not know that he put up these kind of numbers at Baylor. Threw for over 5,500 yards on 36 touchdowns and only 27 appearances. The dude has been around the block. The dude has put up solid numbers in a good league-ish. You got to go a little higher register there. But I mean, Again, nobody is talking about this guy, and it's probably because Mississippi State appears to be a dumpster fire since the passing of Mike Leach, and they're really
Yes.
trying to figure things out and trying to get back on track. But this dude, he very well could be a top 5 quarterback in the SEC
Oh,
by the end of the
absolutely.
year. He really
110%.
could. I agree with you here. I think I'm blown away by him. So a little preview into my rankings on him. Number 6, Josh.
Number 6 is actually probably one of the more comfortable rankings I have of any of the quarterbacks on my list. Graham Mertz. I feel like he is overshadowed by the dumpster fire of Florida. The dude was 97 yards away from throwing for 3,000 yards last year, and he only had 3 interceptions to 20 touchdowns. So I think this year he's actually gonna, like I said about Blake Shapen, he's gonna.
Well, and he got hurt in November.
Yeah. So he could have been well over 3,000 yards.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to win Florida games they have no business winning this year. And he's a big reason why I have Florida beating 2 out of the 3 other Florida teams that they play this year.
I still think that's crazy. I still think that's crazy. But I think again, that's back-to-back players that people don't give enough credit to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he had a quiet good season last year before he got hurt. I agree. All right, moving on to my list. Number 10. I got Diego Pavia because how can I not think that he's a top 10 quarterback? This dude went out there and trucked the shit out of Auburn last year. And he gets his starting tight end, he gets his offensive coordinator, and he probably ultimately, even though Vanderbilt lost a lot of talent on the offensive side to the transfer portal, I would imagine he's probably still going to have better talent than what he had at New Mexico State. I think Vandy with him is going to surprise quite a few people. I'm putting it out there right now, people. Vandy wins 2 SEC games this year. 2.
Wow. Have you used Vanderbilt in College Football 25?
No, I haven't.
They are shit. They are trash. I could only win games with them on freshmen. They are bad.
Well, hey, make sure we replay this part of the video at the end of the season whenever Vandy loses every single game once again. But until this kid shows me that he's not the world beater that he was against Auburn, I'm not going to believe it.
So this is reverse prove it for you then.
Yeah, basically. Number 9, I got Peyton Thorne. I'm booging, man. Me and you both. We're buying into the hype. I get caught in this every year before the season starts. I'm like, oh, we're gonna kill it. We're doing so much better than everyone thinks it's gonna be. And Peyton Thorne is. Everyone's saying the right things about Peyton Thorne right now, and he's got the weapons. Coach has been saying all we got to do is just get him weapons. And well, by golly, we got him weapons, Josh. We got him weapons.
Sounds like you're really on your knees right now for Peyton Thorne.
Way to bring that around. I'm just following your example, dude. I'm just following your example.
I've been singing his praises all year long, dude.
Yeah.
I think he's going to surprise some people in the SEC, and I think he's well deserving of a preseason top 10 SEC quarterback right now.
Hey, there you go. Number 8 for me is Blake Shapen. We talked about this in length. I agree. You had him at number 7. I got him at number 8. So I'm just going to move right along. Number 7, I have him here because of the reason why you had him, I believe, at number 10. Connor Wigman. Dude, I buy the hype, man. This guy, like you said, if he stays healthy, he's easily a top 5 quarterback in the league. The dude he looks so good, and he makes great decisions. And man, you just got to think that he is going to put it together and is going to stay healthy at some point. And I think this might be the year, and he might make it difficult for Auburn to beat him. So, number 6, Graham Mertz. Again, the dude, he had a quiet, good year, throwing just 3 interceptions, 20 touchdowns. And again, he got hurt in November. This guy was clearly going to be on his way to 4,000 yards passing. He threw for over 5,000 yards while he was at Wisconsin. And so he was one of the best transfers last year, and Florida got him. Still, that just tells you how big of a dumpster fire Florida is right now. For
So
them
bad.
to have this good of a quarterback. If only Auburn got Graham Mertz instead of Peyton Thorne last year, I think we'd be in a lot better position for sure. All right, Josh, we're getting into the top 5 quarterbacks of the SEC for the 2024 season. Let's go ahead and let's start this off. Number 5, drum roll, please. Who we got here, Josh?
Number 5, I went back and forth between this guy and Graham Mertz as number 6 and number 5, because by comparison, Graham Mertz did have a slightly better season than Jalen Milroe. But because Jalen Milroe is at Alabama and has all the weapons around him that Alabama has, I had to put him at number 5. But I was torn between putting Graham Mertz at number 5 or number 6. But Jalen Milroe, he threw for 2,700 yards last year, 23 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. So, I mean, he had 3 more touchdowns, but 3 more interceptions than Graham Mertz, and had just under 200 yards less than Graham Mertz. So I'm not high on Jalen Milroe. I don't think he's that great. I did say the same thing about Jalen Milroe that I said about Jalen Hurts at Alabama. Jalen Hurts proved me wrong big time.
He's a better pro than college quarterback.
That's true. But I do still believe that Jalen Milroe is a glorified running back. I don't think he has a very accurate deep ball, but with Alabama's speed at wide receiver, all you got to do is just chuck it in the air and they're going to be open 50 yards down the field.
So I'm not going to bring it up, but you can, as an Auburn fan, you cannot say that he does not have an accurate deep ball. I'm sorry. I'll leave it at that, but you can't say that. I'm sorry. Number 4, Josh.
Number 4, I got Missouri quarterback Brady Cook. The dude threw for almost 3,200 yards last year, 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He's going to continue that momentum into 2024. He's going to have Missouri friggin' cooking. He's a very good quarterback. Very good quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah. And he stayed healthy last year. So I agree wholeheartedly. He's a top 5 quarterback for sure.
2 years as a starter at Missouri, he never threw less than 2,500 yards, and he got better his second year.
Yeah, and you throw in the fact that he has the best wide receiver in the conference, possibly even in the country this year, and you got to imagine that he's going to be putting out some crazy good numbers this year. So
absolutely,
I agree with you there. You and I both are cut from the same mold. We're going to have a shocker here at number 5. Neither one of us are high on this player. I am obviously not as high as you are even. I got number 5, Carson Beck from Georgia. Like you said in one of our previous episodes talking about Carson Beck, he was Ladd McConkey. He was Brock Bowers. Did Ladd get drafted in the first round? No, I
don't think he was drafted in the first. Okay. No.
Either way, Brock Bowers was a matchup nightmare that took away 2 defenders from the defense. He has an offensive line. Now, don't get me wrong. Carson Beck is a good quarterback. I do think he is a top 5 quarterback in this league. I do not think he is the best quarterback in the league, which a lot of people put him there. They put him as a top 2 quarterback in this league. I don't think he is.
He's a product of McConkey and Bowers.
And not just that, we talked about the fact that in a month ago when we were ranking the top home field advantages in college in the SEC, we talked about the fact that just because you win games does not make your stadium hard to play in. Well, the same applies here. Just because you win games does not make you a good quarterback, Carson Beck. It makes you a game manager, and yes, you manage the shit out of the game, and you are smart with the ball, and you put the ball where it needs to go, and you make good throws, and you're a good quarterback, but you are not an elite quarterback. You do not deserve to be the number 1 drafted quarterback in next year's NFL draft. But Josh, with all that being said, there's a reason why you and I are sitting here and not on some team's decision making office. So there is that. I'm going to go jump in here. Number 4, we talked about him. Brady Cook, both of us had him at number 4.
Wow.
Again, just absolutely a great quarterback. Put Missouri on the map last year. Let's just be honest. He really did.
Oh, absolutely.
Moving right along, Josh. Number 3 on your list.
Number 3, I got Carson Beck as my number 3.
There you go.
We talked about it at length. I seriously and truly believe he was a product of Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey. That was his first season as a starter for Georgia. He threw for 3,700 yards. A lot of that was credit to Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers. I mean, we can leave it at that. I do think he is a top 3 quarterback in the league, but the 2 above him are leaps and bounds better and more elite quarterbacks than Carson Beck.
That's fair. Number 2.
Number 2, he is actually my Heisman favorite. I have Jackson Dart at Ole Miss. I think the dude is a
real quick,
game changer.
Before you get into your reason, if you think he's the Heisman favorite, then why do you have him at number 2?
I mean, you don't have to have the most yards to be the Heisman winner. You don't have to. I mean, look at the Mark Ingram Heisman.
Oh, we're not
Heisman
talking
year.
about. This isn't a list of the quarterbacks with the most yards. This is a list of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of interested in your decision to put him at number 2 if you think he's going to win the Heisman.
Because I'm a little more high on my number 1's potential. But as a yards getter and a touchdown maker, I would put Jackson Dart as my Heisman favorite. I know it's a little weird and it's a little hard to understand, but especially coming from a Patriots fan. But I mean, it's. I like him as a Heisman front runner. I think his legs are a lot better than the number 1 quarterback on my list. And he's probably equal in arm talent. I like Jackson Dart a lot.
Interesting. Okay. All right. My number 3 is Jackson Dart. For all the reasons you just talked about. I mean, the dude had over 3,300 yards last year, 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. This is his 3rd year starting with Lane Kiffin.
Yes.
I would imagine he knows Lane Kiffin's binder a lot better than Lane Kiffin does. They're getting upgrades at wide receiver. They're possibly going to have one of the top 2 offensive room in the country. I know they lost their star running back, but they're not hurting for offensive talent. I like you said, I'm high on Jackson Dart myself. You turned me on to him earlier this year whenever I was talking about how bad he was, and then you were like, he's not bad. He didn't throw that many interceptions, and since then I've corrected it. Number 2, I got Jalen Milroe because I am high on Jalen Milroe, and I actually in one of our past videos I named him the Offensive Player of the Year for the SEC because I think Jalen Milroe is going to put up some crazy stats because I don't think Alabama's going to be that great. I think they're going to be needing to throw it a lot. And I think Jalen Milroe is actually going to make a step in the right direction for the Alabama Crimson Tide. I want them to fall on their face, and he can put up good stats and them still be terrible and lose a lot of games. But he got so much better as the year went on. Earlier in the season last year, especially when they were in Florida during the monsoon, I was laughing. I was like, if there's a year to get Alabama, this is the year. They don't have a quarterback. Jalen Milroe is throwing interceptions left and right. He's not the right choice. Well, the dude he's got grit, and he made improvements. And now he has a coach who, for as much as we make fun of DeBoer, he does do a pretty damn good job at coaching the offense and putting up some really good passing numbers. So I'm excited to see what happens there. I still want them to lose every single game. But at the same time, I want me to be right more than I want them to lose. So
Valid.
moving right along. Hey, surprise, surprise! You and I both have the same number one quarterback. It is your Texas quarterback, Quinn Ewers, not a Manning. We're talking about Ewers, the dude with the mullet, the swagger king himself, if you will. This dude just drips awesomeness. Let's just be honest.
He definitely does. I'm very high on Quinn Ewers. And, you know, the reason I have Quinn Ewers as the number one quarterback in the SEC, but Jackson Dart as my favorite to win the Heisman, I feel like Texas has more potential to lose more games than Ole Miss does. And if you have comparable numbers, but you have more losses than the other guy on the Heisman list, you're not going to win it over the other guy that has more wins with comparable numbers. I also don't think that Texas will lose more games than Ole Miss. I actually have Texas as the favorite to win the SEC in their first year in the SEC, but they have the more potential to lose more games because their second game of the season is against Michigan, and that's going to be a hard out for anybody. But I do think that Quinn Ewers is the best number one preseason quarterback in the SEC.
Yeah, I agree with you, and it's funny. We started this episode me talking about how you need to prove it in the SEC. I don't think this guy needs to prove it in the SEC, especially when he has Isaiah Bond, the Grim Reaper himself, the dude that ripped out the heart of every single Auburn fan last year. I think Ewers is going to tear it up if he can stay healthy. If he can't stay healthy, then I will never see him as a top 5 quarterback again. Just perfectly honest here. That would make 3 years in a row he's been hurt. So we'll see what happens, and we'll kind of go from there. But on the big bombshell that the number one quarterback in the SEC is Quinn Ewers, Josh, War Eagle.
War Eagle, Cameron.